everybody. I hope you're doing well. My name is Sarah Schelbitzki. Welcome to our H1 2022 release view from Rizing. I am in the Center of Excellence on the Delivery Excellence team here at Rizing. And today I'm really happy to have Destiny Johnson here. She is a senior consultant in our managed services team and all-around talent expert. So Destiny, thank you for being with us today. I hope you're doing well.
I am. I hope you're doing well as well.
Awesome. So let's get into the H1 release. I know one of my favorite features and modules is continuous performance management, and I know we're today to talk about talent. So why don't you give us kind of some highlights from the continuous performance management release features?
Yes. So of course, the major enhancement this go around is that they are deprecating the legacy CPM. So as of May 20th, 2022, there will be the end of maintenance, and then it will officially be retired May 19th of 2023. So it's best for any customers that are still on the legacy version to eventually upgrade so that they can start getting used to the look and feel of the new version in CPM. Majority of our customers have kind of upgraded to the new version, but there are still some that need to upgrade, they still have some time, but they just need to be aware that after next month on the 20th, they will no longer be able to, SAP will no longer provide any maintenance to the legacy CPM. So that's pretty much it. This go around for CPM, that was the major factor into CPM. I guess the next item you want to go into is the restricting of data for the performance forms.
Yeah, let's talk about performance. Absolutely.
Okay, or did you have anything for CPM before we jump into performance?
No, other than I just think for the latest version of CPM, it obviously has evolved since continuous performance management came out. And I know a lot of our customers are looking to shift towards that more fluid and ongoing feedback process and performance process. And I think the latest version of continuous performance management helps in that evolution. So I think a lot of customers will be pleased with the latest and greatest updates, and moving into the latest version of continuous performance management, I think will really help drive their process to that continuous feedback and performance process that a lot of our clients are wanting to see. So I think that's good news for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing with the new CPM is that they kind of broke out the the continuous feedback versus the actual CPM module. So there's a section itself where users can access their feedback if they're using the continuous feedback, aside from where the activities and achievements are now listed. So that's the one thing that I personally like about CPM, is that they kind of branched out the continuous feedback from the activities and achievements.
Yeah, I agree. I think having that as kind of its own feature set is good. On the con side, it's just kind of one more additional click and an item in the menu, but I think the benefits far outweigh the cons in having that. And of course, for any of our clients and customers or folks interested in migrating over to the latest, one of the things that they obviously need to plan and prepare for if they're migrating over to their version is anything that impacts, obviously training materials, management, digital adoption software, if they're using that, to where they had kind of guided tours. There is, as you mentioned, Destiny, that additional feedback piece of it. So they want to make sure those things in mind as they migrate over to the latest and greatest version. But I think the benefits far outweigh the cons there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about performance. So what are some of your key highlights on the performance side?
So for performance, the highlight this go around is that now users can restrict data access of inactive users' performance forms. I think this is a major and great enhancement because we have some customers who like to keep, inactive user performance forms for, historical data or for legal purposes. They have their reasons as to why they don't delete those forms. However, it was an issue because now those forms, depending on when the user was terminated, the form will either sit like in a manager's inbox or, HR inbox. So now they have all of these different inactive users forms just sitting there. So now within RBP, admins or, whoever has access to, restrict permissions, they can now set it up to where they restrict that data from any, managers or whoever. So they're basically taking the forms away, but the forms still sit within the system.
Right. Yeah, I think it actually is really helpful. I know it can be confusing, and over time, those forms can definitely pile up. So, having that restriction and availability to restrict it during through role-based permissions, I think is really good. It will help eliminate confusion, and also as SuccessFactors continues to move towards the data privacy and making sure that all of that is there for all modules. I think
yes,
continues that evolution on SuccessFactors side to make sure that that's kind of encompassed in all of the modules, and this is just one step towards further towards that.
Right. Yep, I agree. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the enhancements that I have for performance and CPM. Not a lot with goals this go around. SAP, obviously, I'm working on the latest version of goals, so nothing there. But we do have some enhancements for 360. So Sarah, are you ready to speak on it?
Yeah. I think in this release, what we see is a continuation of that 360 parity with the 360 V11 version coming over to that new Fiori version, which I know for a lot of our clients and customers, it obviously causes a disruption when there's a different look and feel with each module. So if one form looks one way over in performance, but the form in 360 looks a different way on the 360 side, for training materials, for employee experience, it causes some disruption there. So I think the parity and moving it to the new Fiori version is good. And I know a lot of customers have been looking for those gaps to be closed, so that way they can lift and shift everybody over to that Fiori version. So happy to see the continuation of those gaps being closed in this release. Some of the things that we want to highlight as far as the gaps that have been closed, some are just quick mentions, but there have been some new community features and new features in this release that I want to highlight. So the first quick mention is having that enforced start date, which is something that is available on the performance form side, but now is available in that new 360 version. So this is being able to launch the form, but use that enforced start date feature to where people can go out there and they can see the form, but they can't make any edits or do anything with the form until that start date that you have in the template. So I think that's a really good feature that we now have available on the new Fiori version that, again, was available in the V11 version. All right, so the next thing I want to highlight with the 360, again, it's another parity with what used to be available in the V11 version, but now users have the additional button over in the evaluation summary. So in that evaluation summary, they'll now see clearly labeled buttons where it says send reminder to all at the top, or it says send reminder for each participant. So again, a lot of times when these forms are launched, especially if you have a good number of participants, you can have those participants out there that forget to go to the inbox and forget to participate, which means that it's really great for the owner that's involved in the process to be able to send it to everyone, or be able to send it to each participant that's involved in the process. So that just adds some additional flexibility there. And again, was something that was available on the V11 version, but is now available on the Fiori version. So the next feature that I think is really great was a customer community idea. So what this new feature involves is participants being able to recall their submission once they submitted it. So what they will now see is in their completed folder, they'll be able to look at that evaluation summary and they'll see a recall button. So say, for example, a participant went ahead and submitted the form, but they wanted to go back and add some information, or they wanted to add some more maybe clarity to their submission in the form of comments or those types of things. They'll now see a recall button, and that will send the form back to the participant's inbox to where they can go and make those additional updates and then send the form forward. I think that this is a great feature. One of the things that you'd have to consider, though, is because there now is this recall feature, we want to make sure that all the participants are going back and continuing to send the form forward. We don't want it to just stay there in the inbox. That's where that send reminder comes in handy. But I think this was a great idea from the customer community that I'm glad to see in the new Fiori version. The next feature I want to highlight is now where process owners can add additional participants to the 360 process if they see declines from the original participants that are on the list. And I think this is great because a lot of the times we see that we have a good process. We want participants to be involved in the feedback, but for some reason or another, whether it's the participant gets busy, maybe they move to another role, maybe they're on a leave or something like that, we need to make sure that there's enough participants in order for the data to be really good data and to get really robust feedback within the process. So now what the process owner has the capability to do is if we see within the process that participants are declining for whatever reason, we can now add additional participants after the form is launched, so we can have those additional participants in the process, so that way we get really good, meaningful feedback for the subject of the form. And again, this just goes to more flexibility within the process and more flexibility for the process owner, so that way there is enough substantial feedback so that way we can look at those reports at the tail end of the process and have some really good feedback for the subject or the employee of the form.
And I think this is a great enhancement because some people or some customers, they actually configure or have us to configure like a min and max amount of participants as well. So if some people decline, it's like, okay, now there's an issue with them, may not have too many people or, not enough people. So this is great that the process owner will be able to add more participants, just so there's not any interruptions with moving the form forward because of the min and max configurations.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? The whole purpose of the 360 is to get kind of that collective feedback, and you need to have enough of it in order to have a really robust, solid process. So I think that's a really good call out.
Yes.
Another good highlighted feature, this was another customer community idea, but this was allowing the behavior descriptions to show up in the competency sections, which I think really makes for a better user experience. So not just having the behavior underneath the competency, but being able to see those descriptions. It doesn't mean that you have to rate on the behavior. That isn't a requirement of the configuration, but being able to drill down in the behavior descriptions, if you choose to have that in your 360 form, I think is really great. So that way you can see how the behaviors are aligning to the competencies that you're choosing to have on the form. And it's kind of more clear for those participants or the subject of the form, and understanding either the comments or maybe the ratings of the competency level and how the behaviors play into the larger picture. So I think allowing for that description to be able to show through underneath the behavior just helps with the overall understanding of the evaluation of the 360. So I'm glad to see that being included on the latest version. All right, for the next feature, just another quick mention. Again, this is to achieve parity with the 360 V11 version, but now users can work with learning activities within the development section of a 360 form, which is good. Prior to the Fiori version, this wasn't available. But now users can edit learning activities, add learning activities, and remove learning activities, which again just helps achieve more parity there. That was available on the V11 version and the new Fiori version, so that way there are no gaps. So glad to see that being brought into this version or to this release and helping achieve that parity with the new 360 Fiori version. So probably the last thing to mention, and maybe the most important, is we are reaching the end of maintenance period for the 360 V11 version. So the end of maintenance period will be on November 18th, 2022. And then the V11 version will be deleted on May 20th, 2023. So all customers that are on the V11 version, please make sure to go through the release notes. You can see the detailed descriptions of what the end of maintenance and deleted is, so that way you can properly plan to lift and shift and make sure that you have plans for not only the configuration adjustment, but the other things to keep in mind, again, are any training materials, job aids, certainly change management, when sure to get those communications out so that way employees or whomever is involved in that process is aware that they're going to be seeing the new version. Again, one of the nice things is that the new version aligns with the other look and feel versions through the other part of the SuccessFactors suite. You want to make sure to do regression testing anytime you're migrating from one version to another, so please allow for time on that. But definitely important for you to go through the release notes, make some notes of the dates and what's happening when, so you can properly plan around all of those things that we mentioned, plus anything internally that you may have specific towards the V11 360 version, so that way you can make sure that you have a successful upgrade and migration to the newest 360 Fiori version. And then I guess last but not least, moving away from the multi-rater, one of the release features that I think is good to highlight is we're seeing a lot of terminology alignment through the SuccessFactors suite. And one of those things is moving away from the kind of the terminology of competencies to capabilities. So we know we have the managed center of capabilities. We know through job profile builder, now we're seeing the term capabilities. And so one of the things that our customers and clients are going to find is that new terminology shift away from competencies into capabilities, and here you'll find the new capabilities picker. So this is within job profile builder, performance, succession and development. Anytime that you have capabilities integrated to a form or other areas of the system, you'll see this terminology shift to where we now have, instead of new competencies, we have capabilities. And this is, again, one of those areas to where if you have training, job aids, anything like that, where your employees and your users are leveraging any type of documentation that complements the system, this is another area that you want to make sure to take a look at as we have these terminology and verbiage shifts, translations, and those types of things. If you call competencies something specific or custom within your system, this is another thing just to kind of be aware of, but something that I think we definitely need to point out, because as terminology aligns to the SuccessFactors suite, again, more consistent look and feel. Sometimes it does kind of throw employees off as they're going through the system, where in one part of the system they see the terminology one way and in another system it's different. So this is just, again, another step towards that alignment through the SuccessFactors suite with the new capabilities picker.